Have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, why does my haircut not look as fresh as it used to? You've probably tried the classic bob, that timeless, easy-to-style cut every magazine calls chic for all ages. But lately, something feels off. The shape looks a bit heavier. The mirror isn't quite reflecting the vibrant, confident woman you feel inside. Let's be honest, the bob is both a blessing and a trap. It's versatile, elegant, and has graced everyone from Jackie O to Helen Mirren. But here's the twist. Once you're past 50, the same bob that looked polished at 40 can suddenly harden your features or drag your face downward. That doesn't mean the bob has expired, it simply means it needs to evolve with you. Here's a little insider truth from years behind the salon chair. What flatters youthful features doesn't always enhance mature beauty. Hair density changes, facial contours soften, and gravity quietly shifts everything, including how your haircut reads. Yet most women don't realize the bob they've been loyal to for decades might now be stealing their glow. Picture this, Diane, a 62-year-old retired teacher from Chicago. She's worn the same chin-length bob for years. One day she comes in, frustrated. "It used to make me look sharp," she sighs. "Now I just look tired." We tweak a few details, some internal layers. A soft bevel at the ends, a little lift at the crown, and her face lights up. "I feel like myself again." She beams. That's the power of precision and awareness. So in today's journey, we'll uncover the 5 most common bob haircut mistakes that can instantly age women over 50, and more importantly, how to fix each one beautifully. You'll see how small shifts in weight, length, or layering can transform your look from dated to refreshed in a single salon visit. And don't worry, this isn't about trends or extremes. It's about reclaiming what already makes you beautiful: softness, confidence, and that effortless sense of grace that every woman deserves at any age. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's dive into the quiet secrets of a truly youthful bob, starting with the first mistake that even experienced stylists still make: the heavy one-length bob. Mistake 1, the heavy one-length bob. There's a moment almost every woman over 50 has faced. You walk out of the salon, your stylist swears your bob looks so chic, but the second you catch your reflection in daylight, something feels off. The hair looks heavier than it should. Instead of light and modern, it sits like a curtain around your face. Meet Linda, 58, a retired school counselor who's had the same chin-length bob for nearly a decade. It's her comfort zone, simple, familiar, and low maintenance. But lately, she confessed, "I feel like my hair is just sitting there. It doesn't move, it doesn't lift me." When I looked closer, the problem was clear. The one-length cut, perfectly even all the way around, had become her silent saboteur. At first glance, a one-length bob seems elegant, even timeless. It's clean, it's easy, it frames the face. But the truth is that solid, heavy line around the head often creates the exact opposite effect of what we want as we age. Instead of flow and softness, it produces a boxy, static shape that drags the face downward, a visual echo of gravity itself. And here's why that matters more than you think. According to a 2024 AARP survey, nearly 68% of women over 50 say their hair has become noticeably thinner or finer with age. When texture changes, that once sleek bob starts to behave differently. The same cut that looked sharp at 40 now clings closer to the jawline, emphasizing every softened angle, the cheeks, the jowls, the lines that weren't there 10 years ago. Think of it like architecture. A structure without movement feels heavy. Hair works the same way. That flat, blunt edge traps the eye at the bottom of your face, creating what stylists jokingly call the helmet effect. Instead of lifting your features, it weighs them down, almost like a visual anchor. Hair after 50 is not about hiding age, says celebrity stylist Ted Gibson. It's about rediscovering movement. And that movement, that effortless, flowing quality, is exactly what a heavy one-length bob lacks. So, how do we fix it without giving up the classic bob you love? Let's reimagine it, not reinvent it. First, ask your stylist for internal layering. It's a subtle, invisible technique where weight is removed from within the haircut, not from the outside. It doesn't make your hair look thinner, it simply helps it move. This small change can make the difference between helmet and halo. Second, add a gentle bevel at the ends. Instead of cutting straight across, your stylist should curve the ends slightly inward so that the hair hugs your jawline naturally. This creates lift, that little optical trick that draws the eyes upward rather than down. Third, introduce soft face framing layers. Don't panic, this doesn't mean choppy bangs or short front pieces. Think of delicate, blended strands starting around the cheekbones and melting into the rest of your haircut. The result? Your eyes open up, your cheekbones rise, your whole face feels lighter. And finally, talk to your stylist about texture-breaking techniques like point cutting or feathering near the bottom edge. These don't make your hair look messy, they simply disrupt the harsh, solid line that gives that heavy appearance. You'll be surprised by how subtle the difference can look, but how dramatic it can feel. I've seen clients literally sit up straighter once their haircut has that bit of movement again. It's not just physical lift, it's emotional lift. Here's a small tip from experience. When you're trying on a new bob in the mirror, look not at the ends, but at your eyes. If your gaze feels drawn upward, your haircut is helping you. If it falls downward, the cut is working against you. Imagine yourself walking outside with that refreshed cut, the breeze moving softly through your layers, the neckline visible, the edges curving gently toward your smile. That's the difference between a haircut that sits on you and one that moves with you. So, ask yourself, does your current bob move when you do? Or has it become more like a frame that's holding you in place? Because a great haircut, especially after 50, shouldn't freeze time, it should flow with it. Now that we've lifted the weight from your haircut, let's talk about a style that drags everything in the opposite direction, the one that pulls the eye downward and shortens your neck without you even realizing it. Mistake 2, the reverse bob, when edgy works against you. It used to be everywhere, the early 2000s power bob, short in the front, long in the back, angular, dramatic, and fashion-forward. Remember Victoria Beckham's famous haircut? At the time, it looked sharp and modern. But for women over 50 today, that same reverse bob can be one of the most unforgiving shapes you can choose. Patricia, 64, decided to revive that iconic cut after spotting it on Pinterest. "I thought it would make me look confident," she told her stylist. "But after the first week, I just felt off. My neck looked shorter and the style felt harsh." When we took a picture of Patricia from the side, it was clear. The longest part of her bob sat low behind her neck, visually dragging the entire profile downward. Here's the thing, your haircut should lift your face, not pull it down. The reverse bob does the opposite. Because the weight sits at the nape of your neck, the viewer's eye is drawn down and back, exactly where most mature women naturally lose definition. Dermatologists note that after age 55, the skin on the neck loses up to 30% of its collagen, making strong downward lines or heavy back-weighted styles far less forgiving. So instead of elongating your neck, the reverse bob often makes it appear shorter, thicker, and heavier, the opposite of elegant. To illustrate this, a small salon experiment, 3 women, all in their 60s, tried 3 bob variations. One had a reverse bob, one a straight line bob, and one a soft forward-angled bob. The winner? Every observer said the forward-angled bob made the woman look more rested, graceful, and confident. Why? Because it draws attention upward toward the jawline, cheekbones, and eyes. And there's another reason this old favorite can betray you. It feels dated. According to Vogue's 2023 Mature Beauty Report, the reverse bob is now considered a relic of early 2000s geometry, powerful then, but rarely flattering on softened features today. When fashion cycles move on, so should your haircut, not because trends define beauty, but because structure does. Let's get visual for a second. Imagine a triangle pointing downward, that's a reverse bob. It visually sinks the face. Now flip that triangle up, a gentle forward angle, and suddenly the energy lifts. Your silhouette feels elongated. The neckline appears smoother. It's the same length of hair, but an entirely different impact. The psychological side is interesting, too. Many women over 50 subconsciously choose the reverse bob because they associate its dramatic line with boldness or modern power. But the truth is, the confidence you want to project isn't in the angle, it's in the ease of your movement. True elegance doesn't scream, it flows. So what's the fix? You don't have to give up on having structure or edge, you simply have to change its direction. Ask your stylist for a soft forward angle bob instead. This version keeps the nape shorter, not stacked, just gently curved, while letting the front lengthen ever so slightly toward your chin. The difference is subtle but powerful. It opens up the neckline and creates a naturally lifted frame around your face. Keep the angle gentle, not severe. A sharp diagonal can make the style look theatrical, while a mild slope feels sophisticated. The goal is to echo your bone structure, not fight it. If your cheekbones or jawline have softened, this kind of alignment enhances them beautifully. To avoid visual heaviness, consider light internal layering at the crown. This adds body and creates upward motion, the secret to counteracting any sagging effect. Your stylist can also bevel the back slightly so it curves into your neckline rather than cutting off abruptly. And remember, This is not about fixing your age, it's about honoring your profile. Hair is architecture that frames emotion, and the right architecture can make you feel effortlessly balanced again. Quick expert tip. If you're not sure whether your bob is too reversed, stand sideways in front of a mirror and look at where your longest strand ends. If it's below the middle of your neck rather than near your chin, chances are your haircut is pulling your profile downward. Before you blame your posture or makeup, check your cut. Sometimes it's not you, it's the line of your hair doing all the talking. So, let me ask you, when was the last time your haircut made your neck feel elegant? Because when your neckline looks long, your entire posture follows. Now that we've lifted the direction and restored balance, let's talk about the next mistake, one that's bold, striking, and confident at first glance, but can accidentally harden your features and steal the light from your face. Mistake 3, the overly dramatic angled bob, when geometry ages grace. There's something seductive about a sharply angled bob. It's structured, it's fierce, and it photographs beautifully from certain angles. Many women love it because it feels powerful, as if the hair itself says, "I've still got it." But here's the hidden truth. When the angle becomes too dramatic, that power cut can turn against you, hardening your features instead of highlighting them. I remember Michelle, a 61-year-old entrepreneur who came into my salon beaming with excitement. "I want something bold," she said, holding up a photo of an influencer half her age with a steeply angled bob, short at the nape, plunging toward the collarbone. 2 hours later, she looked at her reflection and frowned. "It looks too sharp," she said softly. The shape was dramatic, yes, but it sliced across her profile like a line drawn with a ruler. That's the problem with the overly dramatic angled bob. It's a style that draws attention, but not always to the right places. The sharp diagonal line visually elongates the lower half of your face while compressing the crown. It forces the viewer's eye downward, creating a pulling effect, exactly the opposite of what you want once your facial structure starts to soften. According to a 2023 L'Oreal Professional Beauty study, 72% of women over 55 now prefer softer, more natural silhouettes in their hairstyles because harsh geometric shapes make their faces appear more rigid. The reason is simple: our bone structure subtly shifts with time. What used to feel balanced can suddenly look exaggerated. Here's an image to help you picture it. Imagine drawing two triangles. One points up, light, lifted, youthful. The other points down, heavy, pulling, tired. That's the visual difference between a balanced angle and an extreme one. Even celebrity stylist Sally Hershberger once told Harper's Bazaar, "A great haircut should never fight gravity, it should lift with it." And that's exactly what the dramatic angle fails to do. There's also the emotional side. When I show before and after photos of extreme versus softened angles, most women gasp. "Oh wow, the soft one looks like she's smiling more," they say. It's true, gentler angles literally lighten the face. The curve of the cut mirrors your natural expression lines, harmonizing instead of contrasting them. Let's compare two visuals. The first, a steep angle that begins from the middle of the head, dropping sharply toward the front. The result: the back collapses, the front feels disconnected, and your jawline becomes the focus point. The second, a soft angle that begins just behind the ear, flowing gently toward the chin. It creates balance, lift, and elegance, the kind that whispers, not shouts. And here's the kicker: dramatic angled bobs also require constant maintenance. They grow out unevenly, losing symmetry fast. By the 6th week, that strong front edge can feel heavy and unbalanced, not to mention exhausting to style. You end up fighting your haircut every morning, trying to regain that perfect angle it had on salon day. So, what should you do if you love that sense of edge but don't want to look severe? You adapt it. Ask for controlled angles instead of extreme ones. Keep the front length just slightly past the chin, not plunging to the collarbone. This subtly elongates the face without dragging it. Tell your stylist to start the angle near the ear rather than the middle of your head. This small shift changes everything. It makes the haircut follow your natural bone line instead of cutting against it. Next, add soft face framing layers. These create motion around the cheeks and temples, naturally lifting your expression. They also help camouflage sagging along the jawline or neck by redirecting the eye upward. For women with fine hair, internal layering is your best friend. It gives dimension and volume without sacrificing the shape. Instead of making your bob look thinner, it adds life and bounce. Let's imagine two friends, Susan and Renee, both in their late 50s. Susan keeps her steep, angled bob, sharp and dramatic. Renee opts for a gentle version with internal layering and soft texture near the face. At lunch together, guess who everyone thinks just got back from vacation? Renee. Her cut moves when she laughs, catches light when she turns her head, and feels like her personality: bright, approachable, graceful. So here's a question. When you walk into a room, do you want your haircut to announce you or introduce you? Because a well-balanced bob doesn't shout for attention, it holds it quietly. And remember, you don't have to abandon boldness to embrace softness. Think of it as refining your power, not reducing it. Grace after 50 isn't about playing it safe. It's about knowing exactly what enhances your natural elegance and letting go of what doesn't. Now that we've refined the angles, let's address another common misstep. One that hides behind the illusion of structure, but often ends up shortening your neck and hardening your profile more than any other. Mistake 4: the high nape bob. When shorter isn't sleeker. There's a myth that never seems to die. If I cut it shorter in the back, my neck will look longer. Sounds logical, right? Clean neckline, lifted silhouette, instant youth. But for women over 50, the high nape bob often delivers the opposite result: shortening the neck, exaggerating facial fullness, and breaking the elegant flow of the haircut. Let me tell you about Joyce, a 63-year-old art teacher who came in last spring. She said, "I want something chic, short in the back, longer in the front to lift everything." The stylist she'd seen before had given her exactly that: a sharply cropped nape with a dramatic forward drop. But when Joyce looked in the mirror at home, she noticed something unsettling. Her neck looked thicker, not longer. Her posture felt rigid, not graceful. When she came to see me, I asked her to turn sideways to the mirror. The line from the top of her head to her neckline looked broken, like two disconnected shapes. The high nape had created a hollow under the occipital bone, that small curve on the back of the skull, making her head appear square rather than naturally rounded. It's a subtle detail, but it changes everything. According to the Professional Hair Design Symposium 2024, cuts that expose too much nape can visually shorten the neck by up to 20% when viewed in profile, especially for women with softer necklines or rounded shoulders. The effect is structural. Your eye follows where the hair ends, and when that line stops too high, it visually cuts off the length of your neck. Here's an image to picture. Imagine a sculpture, a marble bust, with a base that's been sliced too short. The head feels too large for the pedestal. That's what a high nape bob can do. And here's the emotional side of it. Most women choose this cut hoping for freshness and ease. But when it feels too cropped, it can send the opposite message: severe, rigid, even dated. The back of your haircut should echo the shape of your skull, explains celebrity stylist Nick Arrojo, not fight against it. When you cut the nape too high, the result looks forced, not effortless. Now imagine 3 women in a styling class. One has a stacked high nape bob, one a softly graduated nape, and one with a low rounded silhouette that hugs the neckline. When the camera pans across their profiles, the first looks top-heavy, the second looks balanced, and the third looks graceful and naturally lifted. The difference isn't the age, it's the architecture. So how do you correct a high nape bob that's working against you? First, lower the baseline. Instead of cutting above the occipital bone, ask your stylist to let the hair rest just below it. This small shift restores harmony, elongating the neck visually. Second, replace sharp stacking with soft graduation. Stacked layers, those tight, tiered sections at the back, can create bulk at the crown and a hollow just beneath it. Soft graduation, on the other hand, builds fullness gradually, letting the hair curve along the natural head shape. Third, blend the transition. The biggest mistake with high napes is disconnection, a sharp divide between back and sides. Tell your stylist to connect the two with invisible layers so the cut flows seamlessly around your head instead of forming 2 separate sections. And finally, mind your proportions. If your neckline is shorter, keep the front only slightly longer, not dramatically extended. A subtle forward angle keeps the balance elegant and timeless. I once had a client, Marlene, who cried after we corrected her haircut. She had worn a cropped nape for years, believing it made her look put together. But when we softened the line and allowed the back to flow naturally, she gasped. "I look like myself again," she said, tears glistening. "It's me, but lighter." That's what a good haircut should do. It should let you reappear. Here's a quick self-check. Stand sideways in front of your mirror and tilt your chin slightly up. If the back of your hair forms a gentle curve that follows your skull, perfect. If there's a flat shelf or visible gap at the nape, the cut might be too high. Now think of movement. The best bobs for mature women don't stop abruptly, they flow. You want a line that connects your crown to your collarbone in one soft sweep, not a cliff that drops behind your head. So ask yourself, Does your haircut move like water, or does it sit like stone? Because elegance after 50 isn't about sharp lines, it's about rhythm, balance, and softness that invites the eye to linger. Now that we've lowered the nape and restored that graceful curve, let's address the last major mistake, one that happens quietly, even with well-meaning stylists. Keeping the front of your bob too flat and heavy while layering only the back. Mistake 5, the flat front bob, when balance disappears. It's the kind of haircut mistake that sneaks up quietly. You leave the salon thinking everything looks neat and fresh. The back has beautiful layering, volume at the crown, and perfect movement. But when you catch your reflection from the front, something feels off. The hair near your face sits heavy, motionless, almost like a curtain. You can't quite put your finger on it, but you sense it. Something's missing. That something is balance. Let's take Janet, 59, a retired marketing executive who came in last fall. Her stylist had given her what they called a modern bob, layered in the back, but left blunt and one length in the front. At first, I thought it looked clean, Janet said. But after a few weeks, I realized my face looked fuller and my hair felt stuck. She wasn't wrong. When the back of a bob is layered but the front isn't, the result is a weight imbalance. The back feels airy and light, while the front becomes dense and static. The extra bulk around the cheeks and jawline, especially for women over 50, unintentionally magnifies facial fullness. It's like wearing a perfectly tailored jacket with sleeves 2 sizes too big. Here's the science behind it. According to a 2024 Pro Stylist Index report, nearly 74% of women over 55 experience some form of volume loss near the crown and temple area. That means the haircut's front section, if left heavy, draws attention to precisely the area where lift is most needed. Stylist Chris McMillan, who's worked with everyone from Jennifer Aniston to Helen Hunt, puts it this way. The trick to a great bob isn't what you remove, it's where you remove it. Weight at the front can age a woman faster than any line on her face. To help you visualize, imagine your face as a painting and your hair as the frame. If the bottom corners of that frame are too thick, they pull the eye downward, away from the eyes, away from the smile. The art itself gets lost. So, how do we fix the imbalance without losing fullness? The answer is precision layering. Start by introducing face framing layers that begin around the cheekbone and gently taper toward the chin. These create softness and movement right where your face naturally curves. Instead of a wall of hair, you get delicate motion, light dancing around your features. Then add internal layering to subtly remove weight from the inside rather than chopping length off the surface. This technique keeps your haircut cohesive from back to front, avoiding that 2 haircuts in one look. For fine or thinning hair, point cutting or razor detailing around the front can break up heavy lines while maintaining volume. The goal isn't to make your hair thinner, it's to let light in. Now imagine 3 women standing in front of the same mirror. Each has the same chin-length bob. The first has a flat, heavy front, her jawline looks broader. The second has short layers only at the back, her cut feels disjointed. But the third has soft layering framing her face, and suddenly her eyes look brighter, her smile warmer, her face lighter. The cut hasn't changed her features, it's just allowed them to breathe. I once asked a client, when you look in the mirror, where does your haircut draw your eyes? She paused and said, to my chin. I smiled and said, then it's not doing its job. A truly flattering bob should draw the eyes up, toward your cheekbones, your eyes, your expression. That's what layering does, it refocuses attention on you. Here's a quick tip if you're unsure whether your front is too heavy, tilt your head slightly forward in the mirror. If the front sections fall like a solid sheet rather than moving naturally, that's your sign. Your hair isn't framing your face, it's hiding it. Soft layering also improves how your haircut grows out. A flat front grows heavier by the week, while a layered front maintains shape and movement even after months. For women who prefer low-maintenance elegance, that's a game changer. And there's something psychological too. Many women associate fullness at the front with coverage, a way to hide age, wrinkles, or sagging. But paradoxically, hiding never flatters. Revealing softly, strategically, that's what enhances. When you lift the hair around your face, you lift your energy. You start to smile differently. You see your own reflection and think, oh, there I am. Because that's what the right haircut does. It doesn't erase your age, it honors your evolution. So let me ask you, when you look in the mirror, does your haircut bring your face to life, or does it weigh it down? The best bobs at 50, 60, or 70 don't hide anything. They reveal movement, softness, and confidence that only comes with knowing who you are. And that brings us to one last universal truth about the bob. one that every stylist knows but few women are told. Even the most perfect haircut can look dated if styled the wrong way. A flick too tight, a curl too heavy, or a blowout too stiff can undo everything. So before we wrap up, let's talk about one final, universal mistake that applies to every bob, no matter the shape, the one that can instantly age your haircut in seconds. Bonus mistake: overcurling the ends. When polished becomes outdated. Let's be honest, we've all done it. You've just finished your blowout, curling iron in hand, ready to give those ends a little bounce. You curl them under tightly, thinking, this will make it look fresh and lifted. But the moment you step into daylight, the reflection staring back feels wrong. The style looks dated, stiff, even a little bit aging. That's the sneaky power of the overcurled bob. It's one of those habits that comes from good intentions. We want volume, we want polish, but ends up creating a visual weight that pulls everything down. Take Carol, 67, a retired nurse who prided herself on doing her own blowouts. Every morning, she'd round brush her chin-length bob until each end curled perfectly under. "It makes me look neat," she'd say. But one afternoon, her granddaughter, in the most loving way only a 20-year-old can, said, "Grandma, you look kind of old school." Carol laughed, but when she saw a photo of herself later that day, she understood. The ends formed a hard, boxy line that flattened her shape and exaggerated her jawline. The truth is, the tight inward flip creates what stylists call the helmet effect. It closes off movement and locks your hairstyle in place, literally. Instead of light and natural, it becomes rigid and heavy. According to the American Hair Design Association's 2024 texture report, women over 55 who wear smoother, softly beveled ends are perceived as up to 5 years younger than those with sharply curled or flipped-under styles. It's all about the illusion of motion. Let's picture two versions of the same woman. In the first, the ends of her bob curl sharply under, forming a defined U-shape around her chin. The lines stop abruptly, trapping the eye at her lower face. In the second, her ends fall with just a gentle bend, grazing her neckline softly. The eye moves upward toward her eyes, her smile, her glow. The second version doesn't just look fresher, it feels lighter. The overcurling habit often starts innocently. Many women think the extra curve will add lift, when in reality, it does the opposite. Curling from the ends compresses the shape, while creating movement from midshaft upward expands it. That's the difference between bounce and bend. One looks effortless, the other looks forced. Here's a professional tip from stylist Tabitha Coffey, known for transforming mature haircuts. The best bob isn't about control, it's about flow. You want air in your style, not armor. So how do you fix it? It's simpler than you think. When blow drying, stop the round brush about 2 inches before the ends. Let the last section dry naturally under low heat. Then, if you want subtle polish, wrap the hair around the brush once, hold for just 3 seconds, and release. You'll get a soft bevel instead of a tight roll. If you use a curling iron, pick a larger barrel, at least 5 inches, and start the bend higher up the strand. Twist once gently, then pull through slowly. You're not curling, you're smoothing with direction, and don't underestimate the power of styling products. A lightweight volumizing mousse before blow drying lifts the roots, while a small touch of anti-frizz serum at the ends keeps them polished without stiffness. The goal: your hair should move when you move, not stay frozen in place. Here's something I always tell my clients. Test your haircut's life by doing a shoulder turn. Stand in front of a mirror, turn your head slightly, and see what your hair does. If it sways, you're golden. If it stays in one rigid block, it's time to rethink your styling routine. Beyond the technical fix, there's an emotional one too. So many women over 60 tell me they curl their ends under tightly because they fear looking messy. But neatness and vitality aren't opposites, they're partners. The most radiant women aren't those whose hair never moves, they're the ones whose style feels alive. Think about Helen Mirren walking a red carpet, or Andy McDowell in a simple, softly tousled bob. Their hair breathes. It's not perfect, it's personal. That's what modern polish looks like. So here's my question for you. When was the last time your hair moved with you, not just followed you, but expressed you? Because sometimes, elegance isn't in the extra curl or control. It's in the courage to let go just enough to feel the breeze again. That's the beauty of refinement at any age. Learning when to stop forcing perfection and start embracing motion. Now that we've explored all the major bob mistakes and how to correct each one beautifully, let's bring everything together. Because this isn't just about hair. It's about rediscovering ease, grace, and that quiet power that comes from seeing yourself in the mirror and thinking, yes, that's me, timeless, confident, and free. The power of refinement. why the right bob isn't about youth but balance. So here we are after exploring the 5 biggest bob mistakes and how to fix them. One truth stands out clearly: it was never about chasing youth. It's about restoring harmony. The right bob doesn't erase time. It celebrates how beautifully you've evolved. It honors the structure of your face, the softness of your smile, the quiet confidence that only comes with experience. When your haircut works with you, not against you, everything about your appearance feels lighter, calmer, more you. Because beauty after 50 isn't about trying to be 30 again. It's about claiming the kind of elegance that feels effortless, the kind that moves when you move. Think about it, every adjustment you make now isn't just about hair. It's a message. Light layers say, I'm open to change. A softened angle says, I've learned what works for me. A low, flowing nape says, I'm comfortable in my own rhythm, and that's what makes you radiant. As women, we spend decades learning what looks good on us, and then one day, everything shifts. What used to lift now weighs us down. What once felt stylish starts to feel harsh. But that's not a loss, it's an invitation. A new chapter. A chance to redefine what confidence looks like at this stage of life. Maybe you'll never forget your first bob, that perfect cut that made you feel unstoppable. But maybe this next one will mean even more, because it's shaped not by trends, but by truth. So, the next time you sit in that salon chair, I want you to ask yourself, does my haircut reflect who I am now, or who I used to be? Because the right answer will never be about looking younger. It will be about looking aligned with your face, your spirit, and your story. You've earned your grace, you've earned your style, and your haircut should show it. If today's video made you look at your bob a little differently, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had a haircut that completely changed how you felt about yourself? Or maybe one small adjustment that made a big difference? Share your story in the comments. I promise, your experience will inspire someone else. And if this video reminded you that confidence has no expiration date, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend who deserves to feel just as radiant. Because style isn't about perfection, it's about progress. And the most timeless women aren't the ones who fight change. They're the ones who wear it beautifully.